Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk about Celsius, a stock I've been adding to, and I especially want to talk about Celsius in the context of Monster and ask the question, which is the best stock? If you follow the channel, I'm sure you know where this is going. But anyways, why do I want to talk about the beverage space first? Well, first of all, it's a growth space. Growth. Just like Visa and MasterCard compete against cash, energy drink sellers compete against coffee. Less and less people are drinking coffee, the commodity. More and more people are switching to energy drinks because it's less on a fan acquired taste. People like the marketing. Coffee is a commodity. It's a bean. There's very little marketing as much as Starbucks tries. In fact, Starbucks is struggling right now. Luckin Coffee in China doesn't sell coffee. They really mostly sell Chinese teas and Chinese, enhanced drinks. So anyways, coffee's on the decline. As much as I hate that as a big espresso drinker. But anyways, what's coming up is energy drinks. Younger people love energy drinks. Even older folks are switching to energy drinks. And there's three players. One is private, is Red Bull. Initially a Asian company, present in Southeast Asia, and then it switched to an Austrian. An Austrian guy took over, made it very successful. Very big focus on sports, extreme sports. And then you have Monster, which, quite frankly, Monster as a very similar, maybe even more extreme than Red Bull in the marketing. But both of those brands are very much targeted to men, except this is something that we're only realizing when we compare it to the Celsius marketing. The Celsius marketing appears to be the only, company with marketing that is kind of neutral for Celsius, and then very, very, very much women-oriented for Alani. And why do I talk Alani in the context of Celsius? Obviously, because Celsius acquired Alani. I consider this a wonderful move. Alani was probably up for sale with Monster, with Red Bull. It's a wonderful thing that Celsius acquired it. It would have been a very scary thing for Celsius, in my view, if Monster had acquired Alani, especially when you consider that Monster has been on an acquiring spree. They've acquired Bang Energy. They've acquired Reign. They've acquired a beer brand. I'll get to that in a second. So big acquisition spree for Monster. Wonderful thing they didn't acquire Alani. Furthermore, I want to point out, acquisitions are typically hated in the market. But point number one is Celsius paid a good price for Alani. Low price to EBITDA. I covered this in my last video. I'm not going to cover this in today's video. Alani is growing very fast. They paid a good price. And then point number two, acquisitions in the beverage space is how these companies grow. If you look at companies like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, they grew by acquiring players when they reach $1 billion, $2 billion in sales. That's how they've been able to grow. This is a key method for these businesses to grow. Of course, why do I love the beverage space too? My goal on this channel is to achieve annual returns in excess of 30% per year. If you look at Monster over a 26 period, it's actually one of the best performing stocks over the past 25, 26 years. Over a very long term, it's performed 21% a year, average annual return every year for 26 years. And of course, that catches my attention because that is twice the NASDAQ. But I'll take it even one step further. If you go back to Monster in the even earlier days, when they got started, the first 6 years of their IPO, the returns of Monsters were 44.75%. Let's call it 45%. So in the early years of Monster, this company had returns in the 40%. It's only later on, it's only in the past 5 years roughly, where the returns have been, more in line with say the NASDAQ. And so of course 21% return may make folks on this channel yawn, but I believe that Celsius is much earlier in its growth curve. The Celsius performance could be much closer to the performance of Monster in the early days than it would be to the performance of the Nasdaq or Monster today. And of course, when I look at the valuation, when I look at the charts, what do I see? I see Celsius as a highly volatile stock. It went way up, the market got very excited, and then the market got very depressed just because the market did not understand a small Pepsi inventory issue while the sell-through was still happening at stores. Of course, Monster has been a very smooth ride. It's it's one of these established stocks that now has a very smooth ride, low volatility, but also low return. Because if you look in the past 5 years, of course, Monster has returned 66% in the past 5 years. That's fine, but nothing that impressive. Celsius has returned 1,166%. So Celsius is at a 12x in the past 5 years. Of course, another point to look at, which it's a kind of a silly argument because, of course, we're going to have many trillion-dollar companies, many more trillion-dollar companies, in the 2030s and beyond. So it's kind of a silly argument. But still, if you look at the size, Monster is a $53 billion company. It's much tougher to do a 10x when you're a $53 billion company. That means Monster would have to exceed the size of Pepsi if they wanted to 10x. They need to be $500 billion, right? Celsius, on the other hand, is a $6 billion company, and a lot of investors have a much easier time seeing a $6 billion company become a $60 billion company than the opposite. Of course, this argument is a little silly because NVIDIA is a $3 trillion company, and nobody ever thought this would happen when the company was $300 billion. People used to say, oh, it can't go to $3 trillion. Like I said, we're going to have many trillion-dollar companies. Will Pepsi one day be a trillion-dollar company? It's possible, in my view. Moving on now. Celsius could be a real competitor to Monster, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But I believe it could be Celsius's turn to shine in this market. If we are going to have an oligopoly with three main players, 30%, 30%, 30%, that third player to me is going to be a Celsius, because now, especially because of their Alani acquisition, which focuses mostly on women has been largely an untapped market in the energy drink. The energy drink market has been mostly targeted at men. If you look at the growth rate of Alani, trailing 12 month, Alani grew 50%. Trailing 12 month, Celsius did not grow that in the revenue itself. But if you look at the sell-through at the store, on average, it's been growing at 33%. The store this year was actually in the 20% range. But if you scale that back and looking over a longer term, it's been trading closer to the 30%. Some of you may say I'm a little optimistic on Celsius, but Celsius has been growing pretty fast. It's just really Pepsi that spooked the market. Anyways, the point is, if Monster had acquired Alani Nu, it would have been a catastrophe. But that's not what happened. It's Celsius who's acquiring Alani. So now we need to predict what's going to be the growth for Celsius, the new company, within the next 12 months. And keep in mind, the numbers are not exactly going to show that, because Alani is likely going to join Celsius in Q2 or towards the end of Q2. So the numbers are not exactly going to show that. This is not the most precise science. Nonetheless, analysts right now are predicting for Celsius 30% revenue growth over the next 12 months. That's what they're predicting for Celsius, so a little less than the historic growth. Now, for Alani was growing at 50% trailing 12 months. How much is this going to decelerate? I'm assuming it decelerates 40 to 45% next 12 months, maybe less. The point is, computing a 30% growth for Celsius revenue and computing a 45% growth for Alani would get 1.8 billion for Celsius, 864 billion for Alani, for a total of 2.66 billion towards sometime in the end of 2025, maybe mid-2026 at most. So I'm going to input in my spreadsheet plus 37% next 12 months. And once again, give me a little looseness here. It could be next 16 months. It could be something like that. But the point is, when I input 37% in my spreadsheet, the EBITDA margin is excellent at 22%. Gross margin is 50%. I'm assuming these numbers are going to be very similar for Alani. Actually, the numbers for Alani are slightly better for adjusted EBITDA. The point is, I get an enterprise value over gross profit over of 0.2 and a rule of 40 or 59. Both of these metrics are much better and more compelling than Monster. On the other hand, Monster, when I look at the analyst number, Monster are saying Monster will grow by 7% next 12 months. Gross margin is a little better. EBITDA margin is a little better. Of course, they have bigger scale. They're more optimized. So 7%, 54% gross margin, 29% EBITDA margin. What do you get? How much am I paying for Monster? 1.86 enterprise value over gross profit or revenue growth. That's a hefty price. And the rule of 40 is not achieved with Monster, and Monster, of course, is not doing very well with, I believe, the next growth area, which is women in the energy drink space, in the high caffeine, high octane, wake you up energy drink. I believe the next wave of growth is going to be women, and this is not to criticize, of course, a Monster or a Red Bull, but I think it's a little more complicated than just making the product pink. And when I see a lot of the marketing of Red Bull or Monster is they just make the product pink. And I think it's much tougher to sell, right? You probably shouldn't use a bull if you're trying to sell to women. You probably shouldn't use a drink with a bull, and that has a reputation of taurine. You may remember in the early days, the early rumors that there were around Red Bull. That may not be the best idea to sell to women. Celsius has suffered its own rumors in its day, especially in 21, and you had plenty of TikTok trending with women saying, "Oh, Celsius has GLP-1 in it." That's probably a better rumor than saying, "Oh, taurine is in Red Bull and it's a bull compound and it's gonna help you get." I don't know, more like a bull or something. Anyways, I remember these rumors when I was younger in Europe. Same for Monster. Monster. I mean, this is just the name, just the marketing of this. I don't know if it's a bite. I don't know. I don't know what this is, but this is. It takes more, I think, to sell to women than to just turning things pink. And if I look in general at the portfolio of Monster, I think maybe Red Bull has a better shot than Monster, but Red Bull is a private company, so it's tough for me to find more information on Red Bull. I'm kind of picking on Monster because they're public. Maybe Monster is gonna have a hard time, because when you look at the marketing, Predator, Burn, Nose, which is a play on word on what tuning, like racing cars use, full of throttle. That's another racing thing. Rain, right? This is I don't know, some kind of night. Anyways, it's a very mainly marketing. And when you see their acquisitions, the acquisition that Monster has been doing, it's all about increasing kind of the selling to men strategy with Bang Energy. Again, I think this word probably appeals more to men. Brewbound, so they acquired beer. Once again, they acquired a beer strategy, and this is where it gets weird. I fail to understand, because usually alcoholic beverage companies usually have not mixed with soft drink companies, and they acquired a bunch of craft breweries, which is interesting to me because I don't see a lot of synergies between alcoholic beverages and non-alcoholic beverages, except maybe the cans. That's point number one. But then point number two is they started introducing these alcoholic beverages. This is a hard tea alcoholic beverage, Nasty Beast, and then The Beast. Let me show you this one. The Beast, 6% hard, unleashed. And when I see this marketing, once again, I see a marketing that is not targeting women. Does that mean these craft breweries are going to be selling The Beast and are going to be selling Nasty Beast? Are they going to be selling these beverages at some of the craft breweries that they acquired? Maybe I don't know what's going on with the marketing, but I don't see a marketing that is going after a blue ocean, the blue ocean that is women, the untapped market, an untapped market of spenders that are ready to spend, that are connected to social media. Social media is a cheaper way to advertise than buying, game day ads and paying a fortune for Super Bowl ads for Monster or whatever. So my conclusion is Celsius is now officially going largely into the untapped market of women. If Celsius itself, the drink, is more like 50-50 men. And by the way, Celsius, the drink is very interesting because it's also got a morning connotation where people drink it in the morning. This is not something you see often for a Red Bull or a Monster, who have been typically trying to associate themselves with the night or the evening or the end of day or the extreme part of the day. Okay, that's point number one. It's also have an age, very interesting age component, where both younger and older people drink it. So that's point number one. And of course, 50-50 men, women. But Alani is 90+% women. I think it's even more than 90%. It might be actually 95%. So the company as a whole, Celsius, may end up with a company that sells 70% to women, 30% to men. This is good as far as business goes because Red Bull and Monster are saturating the energy drink market for the extreme sports, the men. It's a red ocean. There's so much competition. How do we not believe there's a little bit of cannibalization? Is Monster, if you look at this, is Monster cannibalizing itself, right? Somebody who buys a full of throttle energy drink might not be a Monster, right? Somebody who buys a Predator energy drink might not be buying a Monster. You have some cannibalization, right? Celsius and Alani, maybe a little bit cannibalization as well, but not nearly as much as all of these brands. So they're entering a blue ocean with no competition, as opposed to the red ocean that the extreme energy drink market is going after. Okay, so that's one. And then there will be enormous synergies in this acquisition. I'm getting more and more excited about Celsius. I've been adding more to the portfolio, more synergies. So the synergies could include things like, of course, and this is a question mark, is Alani Nu going to be using the Pepsi distribution network? If they do, will Pepsi have to pay in order to distribute Alani Nu? I think that's something that's very possible. And then will Alani Nu also be able to leverage the Suntory distribution network with whom Celsius partnered in Europe, in the rest of the world, in Australia, etc.? Will they be able to use Suntory to distribute Alani to the rest of the world? Celsius, Alani, these beverages work. Why? Because it's heavily promoted on social media, and social media is international. It's not like linear TV advertising in your one country. No, this is international. When you pay an influencer to promote, say, Alani Nu, it's people around the world that see it, not just whoever's watching, a football game in the United States. The last point of synergies, of course, is going to be, I think, those protein shakes, those protein powders, those energy bars. I would not be surprised to see Celsius, using some of their supply chain to make a Celsius energy bar or a Celsius pre-workout, knowing that Celsius, of course, started as a vitamin giant. If you follow the Celsius company, it was started with a major investment from a major vitamin brand, a vitamin chain in Florida. And so, the link of Celsius to vitamin company, I think, could be further strengthened with the synergy that comes associated with the supply chain that comes to do, with pre-workout and perhaps protein bar. Or maybe this is a distraction. I don't know. But I think there could be synergies if they took that from Alani and included it into Celsius. So I'm very bullish on the stock, essentially. That's the summary of this video. I'm very, very bullish on Celsius stock, and I am buying Celsius. I am not buying Monster. This was not investment advice, not financial advice, just entertainment, hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on X, follow me on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.